All right, working into chapter 4 with the drawings. And you're going to take the assignment 3-2, bring in those 12 items, whether they're single drawing sheets or multi-sheet is up to you. We're going to do both methods. So I want to start off with picking up the default template for a drawing. And that one went right too, so I'm not sure that was the one I wanted. Let me kick that out. Let's go to the tutorial draw so that it comes up where it asks you for the sheet format. So if you see the sheet format size, then we haven't created a template or we haven't built in those SLD DRT files. Right, but these are going to be all of the different styles. If you have only show standard formats, so as A0, which is the ISO equivalent to, let's see, A, B, C, D, and E size, which is a really big sheet. All right, A4 is our letter size. If I uncheck that, then ANSI, and what basically happens is you start off with 8.5 by 11, you unfold it, or you take two sheets and you lay them side by side, you get a B size, 11 by 17. You unfold it or lay two more side by side, then you're at the 22 by 34, and C has a couple of different, I think because of the way that you can set the dimensions. And you unfold again, that becomes a D size, and one more time becomes an E size, which is a really large sheet. All right, so we're going to stay in the A or B size. If you want to try an E or an A0 in the ISO, go for it. One of the things that is the recommendation, we're not going to go back through the templates this time because there's a couple of decent lectures out there on how to set up your own drawing template. And one of the issues with the default is this is consuming a lot of real estate, the title block, and we're not really using all of this information. So for a horizontal, usually take about the bottom inch and reconfigure all of this to go all the way across the bottom, eliminating the unneeded. The one that you saw on the truck body, that was a vertical sidebar, and that one has its limitations and probably needs to be updated. But between the two, setting up a custom template, setting up your style, going through that process. One of the things to be aware of is first angle and third angle projection. If you open up a part and everything looks backwards to us, it's first angle projection. All right, so the way that I describe the difference between first angle and third angle is if you're holding the part in your hand and you rotate the part, you're in third angle. So you're looking at the front view, you rotate it, you're looking at the right view, you rotate it, you're looking at the top view. If you set the part on the table and you're changing your position, still rotating, what would that be, clockwise? You're changing your position in relation to the part, then the front and the right side view would actually be looking towards the left. And when you look at the top, you're actually picking up the bottom. So it's a little reverse. The isometric, the main key is the isometric will come off the opposite way. So best way to illustrate it is under the view layout. Notice that my isometric is in the bottom left view as opposed to the upper right, and everything is laid out opposed to what we're used to seeing in first angle. All right, so I needed to go back and do a search and find which countries are still using first angle projection, but it's probably, you may encounter it at some point. So back into the properties. Something else of note is that I don't think properties show up automatically. So this is a good place to customize the menu. And I want to say at some point with 2016, I went in and I unchecked delete, which I hardly ever use, and checked properties, which I do use. So when I right click, I see the properties. That's a quick way of getting into it. can switch back to the third angle. We can also change the scale to not so common. For some reason I want a 7/8 or a 15/16 scale. I can put those numbers in and get it working. So let's see, if I wanted a blank sheet, custom sheet size would be 11 by 8.5. Goes right to a blank sheet. I do not have to have a title block at all. I can put in notes and references manually, but at some point we'll want to have at least some of that information reproducible. All right, so we have our sheet in place, and of course we have to have 5 or 6 ways to do everything. So as I find or have more conversation with people in industry, there's kind of a shift to the view palette. So I'll show it first, or what we've been doing with like the truck body. So with the view palette, we do a ... and we're going to go ahead and grab a couple of the first lecture CAD drawings. Advantage of the view palette is it shows you all of those views. You get to pick the one that you like best. So I'm going to drag it in. It automatically goes into projection mode and gives you the right side view. So this is a little on the large side. We're also seeing the origins. So under the view, I'd want to save this back to template, but I need to go under that view settings and turn off the origins. We haven't set up anything in the way of layers. So if I right click and my layer is checked, then in the bottom left corner, kind of tucked away, is layers that are available. So for standard, format, or we set up for dimensions. All right, so those are things that the minimum I'd want to save back to my template. All right, so typically I would, on a multi-sheet drawing, I would bring in all of the parts that I'm interested in as a sub-assembly or as a group, and then go back and start dimensioning. For single sheet strategy, then I'm going to pick out those parts. Kind of left out the isometric view, so let's go with an isometric view. That's a little big for the screen. I'm going to go back to custom scale. All right, maybe 1:1 was the wrong way to go, and we'll put a 1:5. From here, we're back into smart dimensions. If I've set up a layer with the different colors, then we'll pick those up. This is an ISO format, so the dimension is on top of the extension line. I kind of like that. So, you know, kind of back to that, your preference. If you want to go to ANSI, we'll do that in just a minute. So I'm going to add my radiuses. And let's see, we have a few more dimensions. Not that depends on if I did these as a whole wizard or as a standard through hole, but chances are these were picked up as sketch entities. So as soon as I start typing anything into the dimension text, and if you remember, I turned the do not show me the warning when I modify the dimension text. What that warning comes back to is that if I type anything between the greater than, less than symbol, that is going to change the link back to the SolidWorks property, to the information that's pulling. So the diameter symbol and the dimension based on that geometry, and through for the whole being a through geometry. All right, so we go in and put in those dimensions, and we'll set the heights. I guess I missed that one, so give it a Control Z. All right, and then these are metric dimensions. So one of the things that comes out is that we can switch directly to millimeters, grams, and seconds. Or in the case of I want to see both, I'm going to go back to my options Under dimensions, allow dual dimensioning, and dual dimensioning top or bottom, and then we can OK. All right, so now I see both, but it gets a little tighter, a little more complicated with the extra information. So in this case, probably would have been better to do the dimensions and set the dual dimension to the right and buy a little more room that way. Okay, so there's my sheet. It's pretty rough. I need to go back through on the reference. In the case of a bolt circle, since we have that here, let's check that out real quick. I'll go into the sketch, going to draw the circle just like we've been doing in the parts. And once the sketch circle is in place, then I can set it for construction, and that will establish my bolt circle. And then I can go ahead and set a dimension. All right, so we go ahead and save, and this is going to pick up the single drawing. So you go ahead and close and close. Let's go ahead and open up the next one. It's 4. All right, so we're a little more complicated. If we have properties set up, then the custom properties will allow us to populate items inside of the title block, so tracking our metadata, having it go through. If there's nothing in the custom properties and that hasn't been set up, then out of the template for the part, we can also go to File Properties, pick up Summary Information, Attach Custom, and this one still doesn't have the pull down, so I still need to find out where that list is at. Custom and configuration specific if we have configurations and we are looking to apply specific information. All right, so one of the things that we can do is File New, pick up the drawing, set for the landscape, and for this, let's go ahead and tile horizontally as a strategy. And when I drag and drop into the sheet, then it's going to pull up the model view. And under the model view, we can create multiple views. I can go ahead and tell it to put in all 4 of those views. I probably don't need all 4 of them. We're going to go ahead and turn at least that one off. And when I accept it, I have the 3 views. All right, so again, turn off the origins. My center lines are being brought in automatically from a setting in the options. Let's see the view. And go back to a custom scale. 1/5 is a little small on that one. 1/2 would do pretty good. All right, and then we're back into the same thing. I mean, I haven't left myself enough room really to get into the dimensioning with the size of the title block. So instead of changing the view drawing, again, we'll go back in. Let's see what 3/4 looks like on the scale, and then we'll rough position. Buys me a little more room. I need a couple of bolt circles, so we'll drop those in. And make sure to set those for construction. All right, so I've got one extra in there, and then back into the dimension. All right, we'll go through. In the case of one that gets really long, or the 2 that get really long, then I would want to go into foreshorten. Each of the dimensions is going to have additional properties associated to it. So we can add symbols, we can put in the justification. Under the leaders, we can look for that foreshortening. And the foreshortened dimension will, when it's selected, will give you grip points to drag to various locations to kind of clean up the location of that extension line. All right, so I'm not going to go through and detail this one as much, and we can go ahead and save it. Notice that it defaults to the first part that was inserted, defaults to its name. Okay, for our next one, we're going to stay with the A-size sheet. And if we go to Insert and Drawing View Model, that's going to be the pull down, which is the same as going to View Layout and typing in Model View, which is similar, or what gets automatically picked from the drag and drop. All right, so we're going to bring in the finger guide. I'm going to set multiple views, and we see the 4 views on the preview. Go ahead and accept. Once I turn off the origins, they should stay off for this group. All right, so that I'm going to bring in for my multi-sheet drawing. Let's see, under the File Explorer, I don't have any recently used items currently active. So let's go ahead and open up whatever is next here, the rod support. Alright, and if that was open or it was residing in memory, then I can pull it from the File Explorer, drag and drop. That will put me into the model view, create multiple views, and go ahead and accept. Alright, add an additional sheet. From Windows Explorer then, let's navigate off screen here a little bit. Okay, so from Windows Explorer, we'll grab the tool holder, drag it in, and it defaults to the model view, creates multiple views. Alright, so what did I miss? We did the drag and drop from the one that was open. Alright, so I guess the other thing would be from the views. If I did need an additional view, I can Control C and Control V, and from that new view, then pick the additional or create a custom view. So if I needed a custom view for this piece, let's go ahead and open the part, and I want a view that looks normal to that face. Okay, so I can hit the space bar. And under the space bar, you're going to have the previous view, the new view, update standard views to whatever I'm looking at, which I don't recommend. There's better ways to orient the part. And then the reset standard views after you've kind of messed everything up with this one. Alright, so the new view is my angle, and whatever geometry I'm interested in picking up there will now show up under the angle. So go ahead and save that. Jump back into the drawing, and there is the angle view that I created, and don't really have a place picked out for it to reside, and I don't know that that is the best approach to generating the custom view. Let's go through some of the other views. The projected view then was what we got when we went into the view palette, and we're pulling off the additional views. The auxiliary view would be similar to the one that I just created, picking an edge, but it puts the edge in orientation in relation to that part, giving it a view and a label. Under our section view, you're going to have the ability to pick vertical, horizontal, the auxiliary of the angles, and then the aligned or making various steps. So let's go with the horizontal, place it, and then drag through the through location. So the issue that that comes up here, well, need to adjust the under the options. This would be something else to save back into the template, so I don't have to do it every time. Is under the under the section view, we should be able to pick up a font. All right, so the section font is pretty big there. Let's see if it'll let me have it. So 24.25. Now let's just make it an even 0.12. Hit OK. So the label is a little bit bigger than the section now. So depending on where this this view was aligned, the thing to watch out for then would be the truncated hole size, that or geometry size, right? So this was a 5/8 hole. If I come back over and I pick the end view, I'm going to get 0.63, but because this is slightly off axis or off axis of the hole, this gets truncated to a different size. So not a good place to place that dimension. Or we need to do a better job of picking for that geometry. So I mentioned previously that I do the hidden lines visible when there's something to show or it adds benefit. So in this case, we'll go with the parent style. Probably not going to be too much to see there. All right, so we're picking up the parent styles, and what you'll notice then is where I picked up the midpoint, or thought I picked up the midpoint. I got my section view off axis to the hole, so that's why I'm getting a truncated view. So this being an aligned view, it only goes up and down while I'm running out of screen or out of paper to place. So I can go back in, right click, check the alignment, and when we break the alignment, put this in a new position. All right, so that dimension's not helping me, so I'm going to make it go away. All right, so the process is pretty much the same, however you bring through. The other one that I missed or don't have in this case is the assembly. So from the assembly view, if I were to tile vertically or horizontally and have the assembly open, I can drag directly from the assembly into the sheet format and have it start populating the views. All right. So once we've gone through and established those views, gotten started, then we're back into the smart dimensions. Again, anything that I see that I'm doing repetitious, that would be something I'd want to build into my template. And even the default templates would benefit from having a dimension layer, having a centerline layer. Right? So if you're coming from an AutoCAD background, you're probably used to somewhere between 10 and 100 layers. I kind of limit the layers in SolidWorks to maybe 3 or 4, depending on what I need for the style and the thickness. So in this case, we'll create a new, set it as a DIMS layer, and pick a color. All right, so like the kind of the light blue there. And then we'll go with a center, and I apply the center to center lines and to center marks. And I like the really annoying magenta. All right, so on the center mark, I can pick up the hole location. Since that's the current layer, it gets to be active. When I switch back over to DIMS, now as I put in my dimensions, they will start to pick up the layers that we've set. All right, so same thing that we're doing out of the sketches. Really, unless you get really complicated, going through the sketching process to generate the parts is going to prepare you pretty well for applying dimensions to the drawing. So where we said that you create the models, you create the part, you create the assembly to what's convenient for the design side. When we come over to the drawing, then we go into what it's going to take for manufacture, what dimensions are going to be most appropriate. Let's see, one of the add-ins that came in last year is the model-based definitions. And that is an add-on license, so I don't know that it's become mainstream, but rather than creating the working drawings, let's see if it's active here. should be showing up. Well, let's go back to, there we go, SOLIDWORKS MBD. So this is very similar to DIM Expert. The property manager flips in and out as needed. The configuration manager, we have to go and activate so that we can look at those different configurations and display states. We get over to DIM Expert. DIM Expert is a way of doing tolerance analysis at the higher level. And then the appearances, well, the MBD, if it's available, will set up a dimensioning scheme that will work specifically on the model, right? And then output it to the 3D PDF or to an e-drawing. Right? So I haven't played with that too much. Just be aware that it's there, and if it's available on your license, then we can do a little bit more with it. All right, so I will still say that DIM Expert has some limitations. There are certain geometries that it doesn't pick very well. It is getting a little better in 2017, or as each version comes out. But I don't think it's quite the tool that I would expect to go completely paperless or go completely without generating the drawing. All right, so let's see, under the sheets then, did we miss, missed a few more. So we did the section view. Let's see, what do we have for detail view? Now, since I'm going on this one, let's go with the detail view in the corner. And the base, that circle is going to generate my detail view. If I need to edit, there's the label, but I can grab that view and expand it or shrink it. Broken out sections is another one of those. Be careful with the view, but it's going to put you immediately into spline mode. And spline mode is I'm going to draw something squiggly in the way of a curve, and then set the depth to 1.25. And that didn't go very deep, so I need to make a modification. We'll notice that since I've put all these on sheet 3, that I'm starting to see those accumulate. Okay, so what I need to find then is my broken out. And let's see, that was placed on drawing view 9. So if I expand out, there is the broken out section, and then I can edit the definition. And the depth, we might be able to pick up to one of our other, okay, to the edge. All right, so that looks a little bit more like the broken out section that I sketched. All right, so if I have a dimension value, I can put it in, but if I can pick geometry, that's a little bit better. Breaks for a really long part. All right, so I can set the first break, set the second break, and that will show the ends. Crop view will make some portion of one of these disappear. So let's see if it, okay, so the crop view comes in, and it also needs a sketch, right? So select a sketch, or close the sketch profile in the drawing view to create a crop view. So I want to make sure that my sketch gets attached to a particular view, and then I'll use an ellipse for the example. Too many there. And we'll position it. Go back into the view layout. Go to the crop view, and it's showing section BB cropped just to that piece of geometry, which is kind of weird, but there you go. Alternate position view is for assemblies that are dynamic, that can move through a range. You can show it in position 1 or position 2. So for a quick overview, play around with the different views, some of the dimensioning schemes, go through the process. But this is a pretty straightforward process. It shouldn't, with a little bit of drafting, detailing background, should be a fairly easy transition into to creating these drawings.